DJ Lopes from the league here for the breakdown. Recently, the Celtics just made a trade with the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's break it down. The easiest part of this trade is the 2017 pick swap. The Sixers received the number 1 pick where they picked Markelle Fultz. The Celtics got the 3rd pick in return where they picked Jason Tatum. Now where this trade gets a little complicated is in the additional picks the Celtics received. Boston received a 2018 pick from the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round, which is protected in any spot that's not picks 2 through 5. That means if the pick becomes number 1, or anything between 6 and 30, the Sixers get the pick back. In the case that the pick goes back to the Sixers, the Celtics get the better first round pick between the 76ers or the Sacramento Kings in the 2019 draft. We take you to Paul Lambert.
All right, so we are here with Gary Washburn, a Boston Globe NBA writer. It's a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Washburn. How are you doing?
Oh, great. Good to be here.
Awesome. So we're just going to be talking about the NBA draft and the upcoming free agency, which on July 1st, it's all heck's going to break loose. So first, we're going to talk about the Celtics, how their Ainge's trade and trading down. Do you think that was a good move, bad move? What do you think about that?
It still remains to be seen. I hate to kind of be on the fence about it, but it all depends on how Jason Tatum turns out as a player, whether they eventually trade him and include him in a package that might get a better player, not a better player, a superstar or standout player, and whether Markelle Fultz ends up being a perennial all-star and a guy who was a franchise player. That's all remains to be seen. Right now, I think it's a trade that makes fans uncomfortable because when you have the number 1 overall pick, you generally don't trade it. It hadn't happened since 1993. So in this situation, I think Celtic fans were looking forward to Fultz wearing the green and becoming the next Celtics point guard or guard, and that was kind of taken away, and it's an uncomfortable feeling, especially when you trade him to a conference or a division rival. Back in the olden days, the Celtics and 76ers were vicious rivals in the 80s, and the 76ers have been trying to resuscitate their franchise for a few years now, and they've been taking very, very small baby steps, and this kind of helps the process. So if Fultz becomes a great player and an all-star point guard, and the Sixers compete with the Celtics for NBA titles over the next few years, then this might not be such a good trade.
Tatum as a prospect, where are his strengths, weaknesses, how he fits into the Celtics?
Well, I think his versatility, the Celtics are trying to play positionless basketball where they have guys that can play 3 to 4 different positions, and Tatum fits into that very well. He's a small forward for now, but he's a tall kid and likely can play like a stretch 4 where he can shoot, take advantage of his offensive skills. The one thing that he has that a lot of other players in the draft don't have is a polished offensive game. And if you're Josh Jackson, people kind of compared those two and kind of deliberated about which one that the Celtics should take. And for Jackson, he didn't have that polished skill set. He didn't have offensively what the Celtics may need to use, but he was a good defender. Tatum, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. So I think he definitely has a tremendous upside. Can he be a great defensive player? We'll see what he can turn into. He's only 19 years old, so he's got a lot of growing to do, a lot of developing to do. But I do think it was a good pick. I do think he was a good player. He's somebody that I noticed in college and noticed that maybe he would be a good fit for the Brad Stevens system.
With Tatum in place, where does he slot into the lineup for next year?
Well, that's a good question. It all depends on what they do this summer.
If he's here.
Secondly, let's say you don't get another small forward, and you have Jay Crowder and you have Jaylen Brown. I think you have Tatum maybe playing behind Brown, but also playing in a small lineup, a power forward position. It all depends on how he develops. I mean, when you draft one and dones, some of these guys look NBA ready and they're not, and some of these guys don't appear to be ready, but are. So it really depends on how he works out with veteran players, how he pans out. It could be a year where he doesn't play many games, or he goes to the D-League. It all depends on how he looks in the next couple of months in training camp. And as much as I'd like to say, oh yeah, he's going to fit in perfectly with especially with 19-year-old kids, you really just don't know.
Is there a player or players that you think the Celtics should be targeting?
Well, I think they will target Gordon Hayward of the Utah Jazz. He played for Brad Stevens at Butler, so they have a relationship, although that was 7 years ago, and I think people are really overplaying that. He played for Stevens for 2 years in college, but he's been in the NBA now for 7 years, and he's played for his current coach, Quinn Snyder, I believe, for 4 years. So this whole great bond between Stevens and Hayward, I think that they're highly respectable of each other, and they admire each other, and they understand that they were part of a great team that went to the NCAA finals and almost won the game had Hayward hit a long, half-court shot. That I don't think their relationship is, makes it a slam dunk that he comes to Boston, but he's someone that they will target. They're also going to attempt, to trade for Paul George or get into this conversation, depending on what Indiana wants. Indiana's in a very tough position at this point because, one, they have a player who doesn't want to be there, and two, they have to try to get assets for him when everyone else knows that he doesn't want to be there either. So they're going to try to lowball the Pacers with offers, and the Pacers have to try to get something in return to please their fan base, but also move a guy who doesn't want to be there. A very tough position for Indiana, so we'll see how that turns out.
Gordon Hayward is target number one for Boston. If suppose Hayward re-signs with the Jazz, he's in a good position there. Who do you go? Who's next? Who's Plan B?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think that I don't think they have another max player out there, a guy who's a standout player who they're saying to themselves, okay, we're going to go get Gordon Hayward. It could just be that they go after a rim protector, a guy like Nerlens Noel. It could be Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin now is in an entirely different position. Now that the Clippers have traded Chris Paul, the Clippers could say, hey, Blake, it's your franchise now. I don't think he had a great relationship with Chris Paul, so he might be very happy that Paul's gone. Here's $100+ million to come on back, and it's your franchise along with DeAndre Jordan. So who knows what happens now with Blake Griffin, who's expected to opt out and is now a free agent. So all these moving parts are going to happen, and it's going to happen really fast. But I think Griffin's a guy they'll go after if Hayward doesn't work. But it could happen in the next week. A week from now, you're talking completely different.
So we look back in October and we say, oh, we had a great offseason. What's a great offseason for the Celtics?
I think it's signing a guy like Hayward, and then maybe another kind of mid-level free agent who can help, maybe another shooter. And this team always needs shooting. I think that would be good. And then making a trade, probably to accommodate a guy like Crowder, making a good trade, maybe even getting more draft picks or getting another veteran in who can help. Bringing back a guy like Gerald Green, I think he's a good team influence. And then watching the development of Jaylen Brown in Summer League, and also Tatum and guys who are coming. So I would think a good offseason would be signing Hayward and then bringing in another quality veteran player. It doesn't have to be a starter. It could be a guy coming off the bench, but a guy who makes you a legitimate contender. You got to have a deep bench, and the Celtics bench at times was good, at times was a little inconsistent, and they could use some definite shooting off the bench.
Additionally, the Celtics find themselves in the midst of a very important offseason. There are multiple names in the market that the Celtics have been tied to, most notably Paul George, Gordon Hayward, and Blake Griffin. I've created 3 separate scenarios on how the Celtics offseason can pan out. George and Hayward signing, just Hayward signing, or just Griffin signing. First, the George and Hayward idea. This deal gives the Celtics the best chance to contend for a title immediately. The trade for George would look like this, according to Adam Kaufman of CBS Boston. The Lakers or Kings pick, a pick from the Memphis Grizzlies or Los Angeles Clippers, Jay Crowder, and either Avery Bradley or Tyler Zeller for cap dumps. The Celtics would have to let Kelly Olynyk and Amir Johnson walk in order to free up cap space to sign Hayward. This would leave the Celtics with a starting lineup of Isaiah Thomas, Gordon Hayward, Paul George, Ante Zizic, and Al Horford. The bench would consist of Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Terry Rozier, and Guerschon Yabusele. The hole in this lineup is the power forward spot. Zizic and Yabusele are unproven players, but they provide something that the Celtics don't possess: rebounding. Both can rebound at a high level, which typically translates the best from college or overseas to the NBA. George and Hayward will complement Isaiah, taking some of the pressure off. The elephant in the room, however, is that George wants to sign with the Lakers next year. However, the success of the Celtics may entice George to stay with Boston. In a world where the Golden State Warriors dominated everyone this season, you have to take risks, and this is a high-risk, high-reward scenario. The second scenario seems to be the most realistic deal: signing just Gordon Hayward. In this situation, we're still letting go of the same players as with George. The lineup stays widely the same, except Smart replaces George. The bench remains widely the same as well. Smart is the biggest question mark in this scenario. Despite his tough defense and great playmaking, he's an incredibly streaky shooter. While this lineup doesn't give the Celtics the best chance to win right away, it gives them the best chance for success in the future, at the lowest risk. The last one, signing Blake Griffin, is the riskiest. Again, we're going to imagine that the same players would have to leave in order to clear space for Griffin. Now, the lineup includes Brown and Griffin. The biggest shift happens in the bench, where Zizic now resides. This bench is more questionable, as more minutes will be given to unproven players. The other issue is Griffin's injury concerns. He hasn't played more than 67 games in a season in the last 3 years. This gives us a situation with the highest risk and the lowest reward. Griffin signing would put a lot of pressure on young players to succeed. Now, there's still a possibility the Celtics can give Griffin less than the maximum contract and still keep Avery Bradley, giving them a better outlook in the future. We hope you enjoyed our trade breakdown and free agency preview. If you have any comments or scenarios of your own, be sure to tweet at Paul and I at LambertPaul and at DJ_Lopes9 respectively. Have a happy NBA offseason.